r/ask Reddit. What was something that shocked you when you visited a foreign country? How truly polite the Japanese are, and how unbelievably clean the cities of Japan are. When I visited Tokyo, it was so clean when compared to other capital and large cities I had visited. London, Paris, Manhattan. It also felt incredibly safe. I saw Japanese people just leaving their wallets, phones, bags, etc. alone at their tables when they visited the toilet. You'd never dream of doing that in the UK. My friend left a store without taking his 1 yen change. The cashier literally chased him down the street to give it to him. How corrupt the police force is in Mexico. My company has a factory in Mexico and we always hire the same driver for gringos coming to visit. Once when I was there we got pulled over and our driver told us to give him a $20 to bribe the cop. The driver and the cop then start having an argument in Spanish and eventually the cop radios someone, takes our $20 and goes. I asked the driver what that was all about and apparently he had a deal with the chief of police that his fares only had to pay the Mexican bribe not the American bribe and the cop had to call the station to double check that the deal was legit. Institutionalized corruption FTW. Trains in India. Furious fighting, shoving, scratching, and clawing to get on. Then for the rest of the 8-hour journey scrupulous I'm so sorry I brushed your foot with mine politeness. You want politeness, go to Tokyo. The trains are jammed and a couple of times I have had men in uniform with white gloves gently pressing the crowd on board. Elderly Japanese women will simply poke their knuckle into a secret pressure point in your back that will make you move forward in agony. I have never been so happy to be 6 feet 1 inch as when I am jammed on those trains. I lived in Japan for a year. The satellite radio at my school had a channel called Rocky that played the Rocky theme song on a loop 24/7. They also have 2 channels called Alibi. One is an endless loop of the noise of passing cars and pedestrian chatter, and the other is the din of a Pachinko gambling parlor. They are intended to be used as background noise when you call your wife and lie about where you are. You know you are having a good time when telling your wife you are at a gambling parlor is the safer move. Sorry honey, I can't make it home. Yes, I missed the last train. No, I'm not with any women. I'm just with a couple guys from work. We're blind drunk and gambling. She bought it boys. Now rack me another line on Michika's fine titties. How small all of the fruit was in England. 1 apple in the US is like 2 UK apples. I went through a lot of apples. When I went to New York I couldn't get over how familiar everything looked on my first day there. I must have seen way more films and TV shows filmed in Manhattan than I realized, but pretty much everywhere looked exactly as I expected it to. I know what you mean. When I went to New York I spent the whole time excitedly pointing at things that I'd seen on TV and films my whole life. Cops, NYC taxis, diners, yellow school buses, traffic lights hanging over the road. I was like a little kid. Also, special mention to the people of NY who I was expecting to be rude and unhelpful. I don't know why. I just was. Whereas they were the exact opposite. Every time we stopped to look at a street sign or consult a map someone would stop and ask if we needed any help or anything. Every time. Be it a guy in a suit on his way to work or a young girl on her way from school or a guy in overalls cleaning the street. Everyone was so friendly and helpful. I just didn't expect it. How much Indian food there was in London. Not just London. Practically every high street in the UK has at least one. That's the great thing about having an empire. When your food is shit, just go out and acquire other people's. It's really a part of the culture now. I mean tikka masala was invented in Glasgow. Seriously? Tons of food you wouldn't associate with the UK was made here. I got laughed at by a taxi driver in Romania for putting my seatbelt on. In Argentina the belt will probably be buried under the seat. If you ask for it, the driver will get it out for you all serious and everything. Going low. Certainly sir. Excuse the inconvenience sir like the finest butler, but be sure he will be laughing inside, and this will be a topic of conversation with his colleagues later. Falling snow. I'm Australian so while we have snow the chances of experiencing falling snow when you're on holidays is slim. The first time I experienced falling snow was when I was in Paris at the age of 20. I lost my shit, squealing and had a ball. Everyone probably thought I was crazy but for me it was magical and amazing. Tassie is so much closer for snow though. My family is from Egypt, but my parents moved to the US before I was born. My aunts and uncles come to visit every so often. They always come during the winter for one reason: snow. It was weird being like 7 or 8 years old and watching my aunts and uncles in their 30s playing in snow like little kids. I remember waking up on a snow day and being excited to go out and play. It was like 8 AM and they already had forts, a snowman, and about 50 snowballs waiting for me to step outside. How empty and untouched New Zealand is. How ducking clean Japan is. You can walk around Tokyo for a day and struggle to find as much as a gum wrapper on the ground. It is truly incredible. I wonder how you get a society like that, like everybody collectively gives a duck. From India to New Zealand as a child made me feel like I was in heaven. I never knew a place could be so green and clean. In India I never even knew what grass was. I was 7 when I moved. Shops are closed on Sunday in France except Subway and McDonald's. Not only France, Austria, Germany, Swiss also, and I think many other countries from Europe. I'm pretty sure all of Switzerland closes as soon as it gets dark. How many US flags were everywhere? Just looking down a street you'd lose track after counting a dozen or so. The sheer huge size of everything too in the US and the cheap cost of junk food. Canada, that the friendly and polite stereotypes were actually incredibly true in my experiences. I loved it. The weather still shocked me even though I knew Canada got cold. Until I experienced 2 Canadian winters I could never have even understood what that type of cold felt like. Other things. The amount of amazing squirrels. Canada's rampant marijuana culture. I'd heard of BC bud, but I didn't expect to smell weed every time I went outside somewhere. The traffic in Rome. I live in Finland and it's unusual if my trip to university is delayed by a single second by other people. So people wasting over 1 hour stuck in traffic every day would be the most frustrating thing I can imagine. My tour guide in Rome made the comment, "Red man dead man, green man dead man" regarding the crosswalks there. Trust nothing, and only cross when absolutely sure no one is coming. In South Korea there is no separate shower in the bathroom. The shower head sprays directly on the floor and there is a drain in the corner of the room. This is true in most of Asia. I like it. Makes cleaning so much easier. I'm Swedish and when I went to visit the US I got shocked by how polite and nice everyone was. Are people mean in Sweden? Mostly as Swedes are pretty non-social in public spaces. People have a sense of my space and it's pretty big. If you start a conversation you'll come across as a weirdo. I visited Washington DC and people chat me up on public transport, at stores, and restaurants. It's weird. Shocked, and also loving. The complete lack of responsible service of alcohol laws in Bali. Get a bit drunk in a pub in Australia and you risk being cut off. In Bali they will serve you while you're lying on the floor vomiting, as long as you keep paying. When we were in Taiwan, my sister and I were mobbed by schoolgirls on nearly every corner who wanted photos with us. They were totally fascinated by my sister's blonde hair and my curly hair. I had never really considered that Asian people who have never left their country might have never seen any hair types besides straight and black before. A fairly unattractive, ginger, middle-aged Scottish friend of mine was mobbed in Asia. I asked why and he said in the broadest accent, "I suppose they think there's something of the dragon about me." A friend of mine went to work in Japan, but she is a tall Irish girl with red hair. She stuck out like a sore thumb there. She told a story about her friend. On the other hand, some young man knocked on her door and politely asked if she could just sit down and he could masturbate while looking at her. She told him to take a hike and he just smiled, bowed thankfully and told her to have a nice day. Germany. How dare you charge for ketchup? When Americans boast about freedom, this is what they mean. Living in Germany, I have recently talked to an exchange student from Bangladesh. He was seriously shocked that people would stop at red traffic lights although there were no other cars, pedestrians around. Gave me a good laugh. Unisex bathrooms where several people could be in there at once. That was weird. Saw this at a bar in Denmark. I walked into what I thought was the girls' bathroom to see 3 guys. I said an embarrassed apology and walked out, to spend the next 10 minutes looking for the non-existent girls' bathroom. Every time I leave Croatia, I have to remind myself that it's not normal for intercity trains to be half an hour late. Seriously, how good a ducking Döner is. I grew up in Germany, but I never got to have a Döner until I visited family. Guys, why are they not available in the US yet? There's a fortune to be made. People seem to drink beer all the time in the Czech Republic. Our local guide said that sometimes workers will have a few beers for lunch and then go back to work, calling it liquid bread or something like that. How gorgeous a lot of the traditional French cinemas are. There are some I visited with incredible 1960s and 1970s interiors. Most of ours in the UK were either left to run down or converted into non-cinema uses from the 1990s onwards, when the multiplexes started to appear. Ironically, making a cinema look amazing seems to be a current trend here. The newest Cineworld nearly has had a real investment in the sparkly flooring, lighting systems, and screen interiors, so perhaps the cinemas of the 10s will be similarly viewed in years to come. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.